All right, I'm going to talk about everyone's favorite topic today, which is AI, and then how it's going to make your life better as a human, as a consumer, and also what we can do to help engage with our customer base. But first, I want to just take a quick second, and let's go back and think about, can anyone name some of the things that a cell phone has replaced? Camera, iPods, what else? Alarm clock, newspapers, there's a million things. And this trend is everywhere. What we're really finding is that as technology gets more powerful, as it gets more advanced, it becomes invisible. It fades into this background, and as it becomes smaller, it can fit into more areas of our lives. And now almost everything in our life is intelligent. From our cars, which you can talk to, from our fireplace that knows when to turn itself on and off, from the TV, everything in our life has intelligent technology within it. So, okay, what is all this fuss now? Is my TV AI? It's intelligent, it's not really a full example of AI. So let's define what AI is. AI is essentially technology that can perceive, learn, reason, and assist really in decision-making to help us solve problems. It's not as much artificial intelligence as it is augmenting our intelligence. It takes what we can do and just makes it more efficient, more scalable, and plugs in any holes that we have. For example, a human tendency is to forget, and I'm really good at that. So how great is it that our intelligent assistants know to remind us about things? They'll know to remind us that, hey, you should leave now, or don't forget you have that next meeting today, so make sure you leave extra early tomorrow morning. It'll tell you these things to help fill in these little consumer holes. Now, what does AI have to do with search marketing? Well, search actually is the biggest source of data for any AI. So for example, at Microsoft, Bing is our biggest foundation. It's where the information comes in. It's the same thing at the other big companies, right? Google gets all of that data. It's a big source of AI. Same thing with any other search engine. All of that data gives you insights into not just what people search for, but how they think, how they relate to other areas of their lives. And all of that goes to help train the AI to make it smarter. Think of an AI, like my favorite analogy is AI is like a baby. It needs to learn. So if the baby learning to walk, it needs a lot of practice. It needs guidance. And then it can walk, and then it can run. So that's where AI is. The more info we give it, the better it can be for us. But there's a completely other side to it as well. As AI gets more smart, thanks to the information it gets from search, so too can search become way more effective because of what AI can bring to it. We get smarter search that's enhanced by AI. So I want to walk you through some examples. As search evolves, it becomes more human. Let's look at one way. Search is becoming more intelligent. If you think about it, one of the most significant problems in our sort of society right now is these echo chambers. It's these little bubbles that people live in where we only talk to people that reinforce our thoughts, or that anytime we go looking for something, we find things that reinforce our thoughts. So I'll give you this example. Now, I have an 11-year-old son who, of course, is completely into gaming. He loves his Xbox. And if I didn't fight with him, he would probably spend 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day playing his games. So then we have to have this conversation about reducing that. So then to try to help, I want to back up my case with data, because I'm a complete nerd. I'll go look at search. And I can go do the search, and if I say, hey, are computer games bad for you? I'm going to get all the results that speak to computer games are bad for you. But my son will do the same search, which says, oh, are computer games good for you? And what does he see? a whole bunch of results that tell you why video games are good for you. Do you see, based on the search query, whether we were looking for good or bad, it just reinforced that and gave us those results, because essentially it was thinking keywords. That was the old way. But what AI can do now is it's not just there to help you index all the different pages on the web with things like machine reading comprehension and natural language understanding. AI can now understand the context of all of the content on the web. It can reason over the data now. It knows the entities, it knows the relationships between the entities, and it has a much more human-level understanding of the content. So now, if I do a search about, are video games bad for you, I don't just get my thoughts echoed in the results, I get two perspectives, because it was able to understand and think and give me both. That's super cool and super helpful. You want to break out of these little bubbles, and you should get both perspectives. It empowers the human to make the right decision for them. All right, that's great for us as consumers, but this sort of understanding of the web that the search engines can bring, how does that help us as marketers? Well, it's huge. It helps us understand the audience so much better. So I wanted to share with you just an example of what the Microsoft Graph knows about people. Now let's relax. There's no personally identifiable information at all. So it will not know who you are. It will not know that it's Sam Brown and this is where he lives. It's not got that info. It simply will know things about how groups of people tend to behave, whether they are, how do they interact with the world? What do certain types of people like to search for? What do they interact with digital assistants for? They'll want to know about work. Where do they work? What's their job? What do they need to do? What do they need to know for their job? And about them, what do they like? Now, if you had this information about somebody, what would you do with that? I heard something. You would target them better. Exactly. If I know this, it makes my marketing much more efficient. Like, how many of us love looking at irrelevant banners? Said nobody ever. You want your marketing to be relevant, to be personalized, to be helpful to you. And if we know all of this information, or at least we can drill down information about our audience, we can talk to them in ways that they want to be talked to. So if we think about understanding different signals, you can get the signals from things like search history, from web activity, maybe from the LinkedIn profile, from demographics. Again, we won't know who the person is, but we could have, this is a group of people who are between the ages of 25 and 34, who live in Brooklyn, who work in Manhattan in a sales role for a technology company, and their salary range is between X and Y. And they are really, really into Star Wars and Harley Davidsons. We know that much about them. We can target them with messaging that would appeal to them. And we can do this in lots of different ways. Audience marketing is really huge. You can do things like remarketing or in-market audiences. And for example, at Bing, we've seen people who reach out to in-market audiences enjoy conversion rate lifts of 48% compared to non-in-market audiences. So it's really big. And in this way, what we're seeing is that search is becoming the centerpiece of consumer engagement. It's not just a channel, it's not just a strategy, it is your centerpiece of everything. Now let's look how search is becoming more conversational. Whenever I talk to my friends or my family, they're always like, I just wish that the search engine, whichever it was, would complete my question for me if it knew really what I was asking. So let's say I'm done arguing with my son and I'm like, okay, I'm so stressed out, what do? I would type in the word stress. It would be like, hey, what do you want to know about this condition? Maybe I'll say like, okay, stress management. I would click on that. And then right there it would help guide me to exactly what I'm looking for. So it makes it a lot easier and friendly and a back and forth dialogue, just as we engage with other humans. So that way we feel more familiar with it. But another big way it's changing for us as marketers is with chatbots. Now, how many of you have seen this, where if you do a search for a sort of certain restaurant, this is something Bing is just testing. Do you notice anything unusual about this business listing, you guys? You pointed at it. Exactly, questions. Ask the monsoon bot for help. There's a chatbot right there for my local business listing. And then if I wanted to find out if they took American Express or if they had any vegetarian options, I could simply type it in right there in the Skype box that popped up right there. Why is this helpful? Well, let's think about how else would I have had to find out that information. Go to the website and search for it, or B, pick up the phone and call them. Both are significantly more time-consuming than simply being like, do you take Amex? Do you have vegetarian options? I can do it right there in a matter of seconds. I get my answer. Gives me my life back. And it's not just for SEOs. If anybody here is a PPC marketer or SEM, this is also a chatbot extension that's in pilot right now, where if you click the ad, you can interact with the ad and ask it questions right there. And what chatbots can really do is that they make life so much easier for the customer. It's in a platform that we're already used to using. Like, we know how to use Facebook Messenger. We know how to use Skype. We don't have to sit and learn a whole new platform in order to interact with the brands that we want to talk to. So I want to share with you an example of one of our clients who we blinded. They're a clothing company, and our colleague, Alan. Now, Alan's super brilliant, but he has one flaw. He hates to shop. I don't know how anyone can trust him, but anyway. In any case, Alan absolutely hates shopping, but he needs to buy a pair of shoes. His wife has ordered him, like, please smarten up your act. We need to go to this party. You need a pair of shoes. So in great reluctance, Alan's gone to go interact with this clothing company. So he's like looking for shoes. He gets tons of different options, as you do. He'll click on a couple of them, try to look for more information. But the questions are like, will it match what he's supposed to wear? He doesn't know what he wants to do. So he's like, okay, this is overwhelming. Let me just send a photo of what I want to wear, and I'm going to ask you, find me a pair of shoes that matches with this shirt. And the system, the bot goes ahead and looks for him and gives him a suggestion. But Alan's not a formal guy. He's like, find me something more casual. And it goes back, and it goes ahead and spits him out another option. Then it asks him how he wants to buy, and he can go ahead and say, like, yeah, this is great, add it to cart. I'll pick it up in the store tomorrow. How much easier was that? It takes the pain out of the day-to-day tasks. It takes the pain out of sort of life admin. You need to get a pair, you go ahead and get something like that. And that's where chatbots really shine. They can offer these advantages that no other channel can. Can't do this on the website, can't do this in person unless you had a personal shopper. It almost brings it to life all the time. And so it's not surprising that, according to Gartner, by 2020, we will have more conversations with a bot than with our spouse. And of course, apart from being my favorite stat, this also fills my husband with great hope. The last thing is it's becoming a lot more visual. When we think about search and we think about inputs, we tend to only think of text or typing. But that's not it. Sometimes you don't need words at all. There's tons of ways where the output and the input are visual, and that's a big, big advantage. So let's look at some ways that we are finding that search results can become much more visual. If I was looking for something about the Winter Olympics, I'd quickly get news stories, but as quick, big images, so I could quickly chunk through, am I looking for this particular athlete, or am I looking at this sport? It's a lot easier for me to scroll through. Or this year, if I was looking at the Oscars to find some quick info, I could get all the list of all sort of the winners easily in image form. It's a lot easier to chunk through and see things. You tend to absorb and react to visual far more than you do with reading text. It's easier to absorb. So that's giving us information. What if we could search by looking at images? Well, we can, and in fact, companies like Pinterest, companies like Snapchat, they're all training us to do that. You can shop the look on Pinterest, where if you have a picture of a person, you can poke around and buy what they're wearing. On Snapchat, you can like snap to buy. On Amazon, you can, in the app, you can go ahead and search by image. It's easy, it's convenient. But there's also another need that it helps. Let me ask you guys this question. How many of you know what that tool is called? Combination tool, I have no idea. I would walk into Home Depot and be like, I want the thing that looks like a Z. And they would laugh me out and be like, no, that's not a technical term. I'm like, I know. I don't know what this is called. How would I search for it? Z-shaped thing, odd-shaped thing. If you don't have the words to describe something, how do you search? That's where image search comes in. Image search is not just for convenience, but it can also help you define things if you didn't have the words to describe something. Think about product discovery if you were retail, for example. I'm walking down the street, and of course, you find my shoes super fashionable, because they're not, but in case you were like, oh, I wonder where Purna got those shoes. If you try to put in like black, flat ballerina slippers, you'd get a gazillion different pairs. It would be really impossible for you to find the right pair right off the bat, but if you took a picture and looked, you'd find that. And that's one of the biggest things in search today, and that's a big advantage that we have, where you can not just search via image, you can search from within an image. Let me show you an example. Cool. And you guys, that is not a paid offering. That is not a paid ad. Where the image search is finding the relevant image and giving you the price of the product and telling you where to buy it, that comes from, that's organic. It pulls information from the shopping feed. So if any of you are retailers and you've uploaded a shopping feed, then that's all where it pulls the information from. So for one piece of work that you're doing, the feed to optimize for your paid ads, it helps you organically as well. It's super win-win. So if I had to leave you with a few thoughts, I would say, what should marketers do? I would say there's the options at our fingertips that are actionable now are so many. The first one, expand your reach. You can reach brand new audiences through these new audience targeting options. If we think of only remarketing, I mean, remarketing is fantastic, but it doesn't help you. It only helps you reach the people who have been to your website before. What if somebody is interested in buying what you sell, but they've just either never heard of you or never considered you? You could still reach them through audience targeting. It's fantastic. The other thing you can do is make it as easy as possible for your customers to find you and interact with you, whether it is through the visual or the vocal. Make sure you're optimized for the different inputs, because people are using them more and more. And finally, you can use these advances in AI to help you crunch the data and understand what works and what doesn't, so you can serve your marketers much more effectively. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the video when he's talking about AI, but I love the sentence that he says. He said, and I can't say it as cool as Common does, because, you know, he's Common, but he said, today, we have more power at our fingertips than entire generations that came before us. The main question is, what will you guys do with it? And that's my final thought. So thank you guys so much.